He bowed deeply to his parents, tears falling to the floor. "Forgive me for not thanking you properly, for all your sacrifices, for everything you've done for me. I will triumph at school and make you proud. I promise." The mushrooms in his hair glowed softly, as if nodding to his words. "We already are," his mother whispered, lifting him up and embracing him. "We always have been." His father joined the embrace, and for a moment, under the light of the moon, filtering through the window, the small family remained united, stronger than ever. Ren smiled through his tears. He had much to tell them, much to explain. But for now, this was enough. He was home. In the bathtub, while hot water washed away the mud and spores from his skin, Ren reflected on his new knowledge. The mushrooms in his hair glowed softly, reflecting in the water like tiny stars. His parents' plants. Now he could clearly see what had happened. The knowledge flowed in his mind like a perfectly detailed manual. The manual outlined basic plant development. For the iron rank, one must provide 100 correct development points to rise in rank. If 1,000 points accumulated without specific direction, it resulted in premature maturation. The result of this was a weak seedling intermediate maturation, which was the only path available in iron rank. His parents hadn't had a choice. Without knowledge of evolution routes, without resources to buy proper cultivation techniques in their youth, their plants had accumulated development points randomly until reaching the limit. Once they reached 1,000 points, maturation was inevitable. He saw the unrealized potential paths. For the bronze rank, there was bronze 1, the common seedling, and bronze 2, the strong seedling. For the silver rank, there was silver 1, the weak plant, silver 2, the common plant, and silver 3, the strong plant. The water cooled while Ren reviewed this information. It was fascinating and tragic at once. His parents had worked so hard, but without the correct knowledge, without understanding the evolution paths. Ren straightened in the bathtub. There were no paths left, but there was an option. The knowledge unfolded in his mind, clear and precise. It was the 1,000 days method for true plant maturation. The mature plants everyone knew were actually an intermediate state, a cocoon waiting to bloom. The true final result required 3 things. First, 1,000 specific development points. Second, 1 point per day, without exception. Third, a 3-part ritual that must be performed with absolute precision. The method was deceptively simple. First, at dawn, the plant must absorb the energy of a common mana crystal drop until it completely dissolves. These could be found on the surface after rains, but it must be processed. This energy must mix with a drop of vital essence. Second, during midday, the crystal needs exactly 24 minutes of direct sunlight, not a minute more, not a minute less. Third, at sunset, the mixture must be sealed with golden pollen from night flowers, which are common plants that bloom in 10-day cycles. It's like daily medicine, Ren thought enthusiastically, and the components are common enough to never run out. The key wasn't in the components, but in precision and consistency. One failed day, and the process had to restart from zero. Most people who had tried any cultivation with a new method would abandon it after a few months, convinced it wasn't working. Additionally, at the end they had to seal all the accumulated power in the process with an expensive rune. In this case, his parents would need a vitality rune for the last day. "Now I understand why nobody discovers this," murmured Ren. "Everyone knows effective cultivation methods last 150 days maximum. Some extend to 6 months. The 5-month perception was also a misinterpretation. In reality, all methods were only 100 days long, but people wasted time at the beginning trying to find the correct rhythm and getting the mana energy levels wrong. Not that he didn't get why they used less mana every day than the most efficient amount. Mana poisoning was scary. The mushrooms in his hair pulsed softly while he processed this information. It was strange to know so much, about every beast. Yet even if he could clearly see the evolution paths and cultivation methods up to silver rank, beyond that there was nothing. Everything related to gold rank beasts or higher was an absolute mystery. Perhaps, he thought, when my own spore evolves. But that was a problem for another time. Now he had to find a way to convince his parents to try something that everyone knew was impossible. 1,000 days, a daily mission, 3 magical elements, no margin for error, and the result. A truly mature iron plant could reach the strength of a bronze 2 plant. It wouldn't be as versatile as a plant that had naturally evolved to that rank, but its base power would be the same. Their extra vitality would rise from 40% to 100%, and they would live longer too. He just needed to convince them to try it. For 1,000 days. It's like cooking, he murmured, finding an analogy his parents would understand. You can have the best ingredients, but without the correct recipe. He sank deeper into the water, watching how the mushrooms in his reflection subtly changed color. There had to be a way to show them he wasn't making up stories, to show them he really understood things no 10-year-old should know. But first, he needed to better understand his own powers. Information about other beasts flowed naturally in his mind. But there were limits. Nebulous frontiers where knowledge faded into uncertainty, one step at a time, he whispered, remembering how his father always said that same thing when preparing a particularly complex dish. Water dripped from the mushrooms in his hair when he finally left the bath. In the foggy old mirror, his reflection stared back. A small, scrawny boy with red hair and green eyes, luminescent mushrooms in his hair. Nobody would believe that this child could be special. He would have to prove it. Ren awoke with the first light, the mushrooms in his hair glowing faintly. In 6 days, he would leave for school for 8 long years. But before leaving, he needed to make sure his parents began the ritual. He found them in the kitchen, preparing for another day of work. Their faces still showed marks from the previous night's crying. "Mom, Dad," he called their attention, holding dozens of mana crystals he had found over the years in the garden. "Before I go to school, could you promise me something?" Ren awoke with the first light of dawn, the mushrooms in his hair glowing with a faint radiance. He had dreamed of evolution routes and paths of power, but among all that knowledge, one simple idea had crystallized. His parents were cooks. He dressed quickly and went down to the kitchen. As expected, his parents were already there, preparing the day's bread. "Dad," he called softly, "can I ask you something about cooking?" His father turned, surprised. Ren had never shown much interest in the technical details of cooking, and though he always helped, he didn't do it to learn. "When you make bread," Ren continued, "why do you let the dough rest for exactly 12 hours? "Well," his father smiled, always happy to share his knowledge with his son. "That's the time natural yeast needs to." "And if someone told you that you only need 2 hours?" His father frowned. "It wouldn't work the same. Fermentation needs." "How do you know?" "Because I've tried it. All bakers have tried it. We look for shortcuts at first, but with time you learn that some processes simply need their time." Ren smiled. "And if someone told you you're wasting your time? That 12 hours is too much, that nobody waits that long?" "Then," his father crossed his arms, "I'd show them 2 loaves, one with 2 hours of rest and one with 12. The proof is in the result. Even if everyone says you're crazy for waiting so long." A spark of understanding appeared in his father's eyes. "This isn't about bread, is it?" "Mum, Dad," Ren called their attention, holding hundreds of small mana crystals he had collected over the years. "Before I go to school, could you promise me something?" Mana crystals this small weren't very valuable. You needed about 5 to buy a decent loaf of bread. But Ren was offering them around 500, a rather significant amount for a child. His parents exchanged glances. The kind of glances adults share when a child is about to say something that will break their hearts. "I found a way to make your plants stronger," Ren continued, trying to sound confident despite the lump in his throat. "It's a ritual that takes 1,000 days, but—" "I promise," Ren said firmly, "that if you trust me and follow exactly what I tell you for 1,000 days, your plants will reach the power of a bronze rank 2 beast." "Son," his father began skeptically, "like bread, Dad, the proof will be in the result." "Oh, darling," his mother knelt before him, her eyes moistening again. "I know it sounds impossible," Ren continued quickly, "but you only need to absorb this each day, with these mana crystals, and—" He understood what they were thinking, their little son, desperately trying to convince himself and them that everything would be all right, that his weak fungus and their mature plants didn't mean a future of misery.
Wait, that's not the end. You've just had a free taste. Now get the full story on the Pocket FM app, link in description. Check out our next video and playlist, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.